Hi everyone, and welcome to my process video here on YouTube. I want to take a moment to let you know that the process video that you are about to watch is from one of my classes that was formerly available on Big Picture Classes. Any references within the video to class content, written instructions, or downloads will not be available for this particular process video. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. I will try to assist you in any way that I can. In some instances, I will try to provide downloads to you and make them available in my Etsy shop. And if that is the case, you will be able to see that at the end of the video with my Etsy shop logo and a link to where you can purchase that particular download. Thank you so much for your interest in my work. Now let's go ahead and get started with some memory keeping fun. Hello, and welcome to my second spread in lesson 3, which is about gratitude for everyday life. And these photos are ones that I printed from my stash of photos showing some things that I'm grateful for. I've also printed out a piece of word art onto a transparency that's from Ali Edwards. My journaling is on a very muted piece of cardstock. And I also have a full page photo. The journaling was formatted in Photoshop Elements. So what I did was I started with my story. I created a 7 by 8¼ inch canvas, and I typed my story so that it would appear in the middle of the page. I formatted it so that there was space on either side so that I could fit my photos. I printed out the journaling on my patterned paper and then used a ruler to measure and see how much space did I have around the entire journaling block. That was helping me to determine what size my photos should be in order to be able to fit them around the journaling block without covering up any of the words. Some of my photos are square, some of them are rectangular with a landscape orientation, and some of them are rectangular with a portrait orientation. And I actually ended up printing more photos than I needed because I just wanted to see how many I could fit around the entire journaling spot. So some of them didn't make the cut, but you'll see that most of my photos are of nature. This particular page is focusing on just life, right? Your general ordinary day, nothing specific about, what I did for a day, but more or less looking at the appreciation that I have just for days in general. And you'll see if you could look at one of the photos, my journaling is actually addressed. I'm speaking to an ordinary day. And so it's kind of like a general theme with some photos from different times in my life. So I'm going to sew around this page with my sewing machine, and I'm going to use some black thread, and you'll see here that I went all around the 4 sides. The top part got a little screwed up in my machine, but I decided that I was totally okay with it. I punched holes into that page, and now I'm using that page to put up against the back of my full page photo so that my holes line up next to each other when these pages are in my album together. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the transparency. I'll use a Sharpie instead of a pencil so I could mark the transparency exactly where I want to punch my holes. Now you don't need to do this, but I'm particular about my holes, so I always like to make sure everything is lined up. So I'll go ahead and punch holes in that. Have a little bit of a hard time there, you'll see, keeping the transparency steady, but I get it done, and everything is pretty much coming together as I had planned. And I think I'm going to add a few phrases to my full page photo. And I chose a canvas phrase, again from Ali Edwards, and a chipboard phrase. And you'll see here I'm kind of trying to figure out where do I want them. And I kind of move them around a little bit. Do I want them underneath the moon? Do I want them above the moon? I end up trimming the edges off that canvas piece to make it a little bit shorter and getting out my adhesive to be able to put that canvas where I want it to go. I usually try to use this type of adhesive when it comes to either canvas or felt or fabric. Kind of makes me feel like it sticks a little bit better than your regular everyday tape runner adhesive. You will see here that before I actually decide to adhere anything down, I do quite a bit of fussing with where I want to put everything. This is very, very common for me. I will sit and sometimes move things around and make decisions and change my mind over and over again. Eventually, I do decide that I want the canvas piece to be right below the moon in my photo. And then below the canvas piece, I am going to put the chipboard phrase. And you saw there, I also pulled out some chipboard hearts. And I think I'm going to place one of those underneath the chipboard phrase. Another thing that I end up doing here is grabbing my centering ruler. And I know my moon is not quite in the middle of the photo, but I wasn't sure whether I wanted the phrase centered below the moon or centered on the page. So I decided that I would use my ruler to just kind of eyeball and see where I liked it the best. So I was really careful here because I didn't want to actually let it touch the photo until I was sure. And I think that turned out to be pretty good. It's more centered under the moon than it is actually centered on the page. And then I went ahead and centered the chipboard phrase below the canvas phrase. I like how that yellow phrase kind of goes along with the yellow in my flower on the other page. Kind of brings both of the pages together. I'm going to put a heart beneath the chipboard phrase. And then I also decide to go ahead and put 2 more hearts mixed amongst the photos on the second page. So you'll see here I choose a light colored heart to go on the deeper blue background. And then on the other page, I choose more deeper colored hearts to kind of stick out, right? Because my background is light and I have my photos outlined with a white border, and I thought that the darker hearts would look a little bit nicer. All right, so that looks like that is exactly what I want there. And I'm just going to use my date stamp and stamp the date in the lower right-hand corner underneath that last photo, which I actually did plan ahead of time. And that's the reason why I put the photo a little bit up from the border of the page. And then there's my word art. And that's it. So just some quick pictures of what it's going to look like in my album after everything is said and done. So there you have it. That is my full page photo with a few embellishments, my photos on the second page, as well as on top of that is my transparency with my word art. And then when you flip over that transparency, you are able to get a better look at the photos and read the journaling. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for joining me. As always, if you have any comments, please leave them below, and we will see you guys in the next video.